No way for you!
Dann lass uns mal das schöne League of Legends is Dying Video anschauen. Let's go.
Really dying. Oh god. Okay, first off, I honestly don't really want to make this video, mainly because it's kind of a gloomy topic and I'm not a fan of negativity. Also, I never thought I'd actually need to make this specific video, mostly because I never thought the game was actually dying. Sure, Riot have made their fair share of mistakes in the past, some big mistakes, but I never thought they were bad enough to the point it actually threatened the existence of the game. Until now. Anyways, feel free to sit back and relax because this is going to be a long one, and welcome to League of Legends 2023. Let's get into things. Now, I know I'm a bit late to the party here, as multiple content creators have already made videos about this.
Ich muss aber dazu sagen, ne, dieses Is League Actually Dying Trend, das ist legit jede einzelne Season kommen diese Videos.
Topic, and if you haven't already seen them yet, you should go check them out. But like them, I actually originally was going to post a similar video right after I saw the new 2023 cinematic, or more specifically, lack of a cinematic. However, because some of the other content creators also had the same idea and got the videos out ridiculously fast, I decided to instead hold off a bit, take a breather, and just observe things for the next few days, which I'm glad I did because a lot has changed since then. Anyways, I want to go over as much as possible in detail on the state of League of Legends, go over some of the new updates, and give some of my thoughts on the whole situation as well. To start, I want to be as transparent as possible, so let's start off with the actual numbers and statistics. Currently on paper, League of Legends is not dying by any means. Average monthly players is about the same it's been and really hasn't changed much, and the pro scene viewership was significantly up at Worlds. So if viewership is up and the player base is normal, then what's the problem? Well, to start, Worlds viewership in my opinion was a complete anomaly. The only reason viewership was up this year was because of the incredible games that took place and the storybook backstory behind it. Without the story of Deft and Faker and without so many incredible matches, viewership, at least in my opinion, would have been significantly lower than normal.
Und wie stellt er sich vor, dass bei den Worlds nicht die besten Spieler der Welt gegeneinander spielen? Entschuldigung.
Basically, everything that could have happened to make Worlds as exciting as possible happens
also,
just by chance, and it's not something that should be banked on happening every year. I mean, honestly, what would 2022 have looked like for League if nothing exciting were to have happened at Worlds? As far as the player base goes, yes, they seem fine now, but there's no way things stay that way with the direction we're headed in now. Because honestly, we've kind of put up with a lot of stuff these last few years. This last year especially. Believe it or not, and this may come as a shock to you, League players are abnormally stubborn, and by that I mean we have a pretty big threshold on what it takes for us to quit this game, which is good for Riot. It's actually great for Riot, but it doesn't mean that threshold is unlimited. And recently, it seems like they've been constantly poking us with a stick, seeing how far we can be pushed. I mean, this last year, we received no new game modes. Riot basically encouraged players to only grind rank. Riot released over 140 skins for a money grab. No new maps were released. Not that we were super hopeful in the first place. Almost no new lore was released. Riot changed LCS times to a time that was inconvenient for almost everyone and prioritized Valorant instead, which in their defense, they did recently change, so that was good on them. But bots were being used at an all-time high. People were cheating in rank. People were gambling in rank, and to wrap it all up, at the start of the 2023 season, they released a knockoff version of the introduction to Avatar: The Last Airbender as the cinematic.
Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But I believe Aang can save.
Verstehe ich das jetzt gerade richtig? Er hat seine Zahlen beweisen das Gegenteil, aber er hat das Gefühl, League stirbt, weil er es fühlt. Weil der generelle Vibe so ist, oder was? Ist das sein Take, oder was? Der generelle Vibe ist negativ. Oh.
Save the world.
Ganz stark.
It honestly works a little too well. Now, the cinematic being doo-doo may not seem like a big deal, and it really isn't in the long run, but it definitely was the perfect catalyst to throw the entire League of Legends community over the edge. After enduring an entire year of feeling like Riot just didn't care anymore, they essentially confirmed this fact by dropping the ball on something we all thought was immune from the corruption. I mean, the joke for years in the League community has always been, well, it kinda sucks Riot did X, Y, or Z, but at least their animations never disappoint. And unfortunately, here we are in 2023 where even that's no longer the case. Now, I just gotta say that it takes effort to kill a game this big. Even if Riot drops the ball on a few things, people will still play the game because we like the game, and even if we say we hate it, it's still fun and we're addicted. Hell, even if multiple issues pop up at the same time, we'll complain about it, but we'll still probably suck it up and keep playing anyways. However, what's different about this time around is that it felt like someone at Riot was actively trying to kill the game. I just logically can't think of any other explanation for it. Now, to touch on some of my points above, over 140 skins is a lot of skins, and for perspective, they earn an estimated $10 million per skin every year. It's a pretty good little chunk of change, and honestly, the fact they released so many.
Ist das aber, also ist das mehr als sonst bei den Skinlines? Ich dachte, das wäre relativ normal, also die Menge an Champions und die Menge der Skins. Da gab es doch so ein Development-Manifesto dazu. Ich dachte, das wär relativ normal gewesen.
Any doesn't really bug me. It's more the fact that they seem to pour the majority of their resources into mainly making new skins for a money grab while seeming...
Was viele Leute nicht wissen, ist, bei League of Legends ist es ja so, dass die Worlds, du gewinnst ja nur, glaube ich, 1 Million, wenn du gewinnst. Aber wo die Worlds-Gewinner ihr Geld kriegen, ist durch die Skins. Das heißt, dadurch, dass du danach eine Skin-Linie rausbringen darfst, verdienen die tatsächlich extrem gutes Geld, die Worlds-Gewinner. Aber das wird immer so unter den Tisch gekehrt und dann wird das mit so Spielen wie in Dota und The International, wo es dann halt 40 Millionen Preisgeld oder so gibt. Aber tatsächlich kriegst du ähnlich viel Geld, wenn du in League gewinnen würdest, wegen den Skins.
Using none of that money to improve League elsewhere. Now, obviously, I don't know the actual numbers and where exactly funds are being allocated, but what I do know is that League hasn't received any fun updates in years. On top of that, it just seems that Riot's investing way more time and money into their newer games like Valorant or Wild Rift, or even some of their other
Das muss ich allerdings sagen, stimmt. Also ich finde, man kriegt als League-Spieler schon so ein bisschen das Gefühl, dass man die Piggybank ist für die anderen Spiele. Weil die anderen Projekte sind ja aktuell einfach natürlich noch Minusgeschäfte, ne, offensichtlich. Und da wird sehr viel Geld investiert, da wird sehr viel Geld reingepumpt, da werden Ligen aufgebaut, competitive, das kostet ja alles unglaublich viel Geld, da diese Strukturen zu schaffen und die Spiele auch zu entwickeln und die Server und so weiter. Also das ist natürlich schon so dieses Piggybank-Gefühl hat man, glaube ich, schon ein bisschen, wenn man League-Spieler ist.
Upcoming projects, which is great. I'm honestly happy they're expanding so much, and I'm actually really excited for everything they got in store for us. But it shouldn't come at the cost of neglecting the League community completely. I mean, in their latest response video, they even confirmed that this had been the case, saying they turned the League Game Modes team into the TFT team.
League used to have a Game Modes team, and I think a pretty good one. And we ended up using that team as the foundation for the development of Teamfight Tactics and the ongoing development of it.
Ja, aber also ich glaube, was er nicht ganz versteht, ist, also, dass die nur einen Teil der Personalien abgeschöpft haben, die zum TFT-Projekt. Also, die haben natürlich nicht das gesamte Team entfernt, ne? Sondern die haben nur einen Teil abgeschöpft. Ich weiß nicht, das Team um Mordok herum halt, die sich halt mit TFT beschäftigt haben. Ist mein Verständnis zumindest. Ist zumindest mein Verständnis.
And this honestly makes so much more sense now, because the launch of TFT really was about the time we started seeing a huge drop-off in new game modes. Anyways, it just sucks that this decision was made, because when you think about it, we as the League community are kind of the reason they're able to do all of this in the first place. Now, my main issue with all of this is that Riot just doesn't seem to care anymore, and it sucks. Take the winter map, for example. This is something the League community has been wanting back for years now, and their first excuse for them not doing this was they wanted to focus on more immersive environments that players got to experience for longer periods of time, like Nexus splits, which first of all, I gotta be honest, I think that in itself is kind of a poor excuse, and there shouldn't be any reason they couldn't just do both. But even if we did humor this idea of them just focusing on Nexus splits, they eventually just dropped the whole game mode anyways. And as far as their second excuse goes, I kid you not, this is what they said. When asked why they couldn't just reuse the winter map from previous years, their excuse was, and I quote, "It would take some time." Yes, they literally said that, and not only that, but they also even admitted that it's not technically challenging to do, but they just didn't want to take some time to do it. It's honestly stuff like this that's most frustrating, and it makes it hard to continue believing in a company that doesn't care enough to make admittedly small changes like this, not for profit, not for money, but for the community. Now, some of you may not know this because a lot of people who play today are actually newer to the game, but years ago, Riot used to actually add in tons of fun events, Easter eggs, and game modes before. I mean, hell, they'd even do special events for the Winter Olympics. And while I know times have definitely changed since then and the community has grown substantially, small acts like adding a winter map or adding a fun game mode every so often would go a long way. What's crazy is that all of the points above are just touching the surface of things that are wrong.
Eine Sache, wo ich auch zustimmen würde, ich war großer Fan davon, dass sie ab und zu diese Modis hatten, die so storybasiert waren. Ich weiß, dass die nicht viel Replay-Value hatten, aber das hat sich echt sehr geil angefühlt. Also wenn ihr euch noch zum Beispiel an Odyssey zurückerinnert. Oder an die Doom-Bots zum Beispiel. Also mir hat das als Spieler sehr Spaß gemacht, einfach ein paar Games mit Kollegen da zu spielen. Ne? Leider haben sie gesagt, dass das halt einfach nicht wert ist zu entwickeln, weil das so teuer ist. Fand ich auch schade, persönlich.
Wrong with League right now. I mean, take the start of the 2023 season, for instance. No one even knew exactly when the new season was starting. Yeah, and in order to figure it out, you literally had to go to one of the writers' Twitter pages to find out. I mean, their Instagram story page had a countdown, but even then, I'm pretty sure their timer was actually a day early. And even...
Also, muss man ehrlich sagen, das war disgusting. Also, zumal auf dem offiziellen Instagram dann auch noch ein Post war, der falsch war für, also ich meine, da ging es halt um die unterschiedlichen Zeiten, also die wurden halt zu unterschiedlichen Zeiten, wurden die Server ja aufgemacht. Also das war schon
Then, once the season did start,
sehr
it was
rough.
pretty freaking underwhelming. It was like that same feeling you get when counting down to the new year in anticipation, only to realize that once the clock actually strikes midnight, nothing actually changes. But screw that, this isn't New Year's, this is League of Legends. Where the is my Fortnite Marshmallow concert? Or whatever artist they feature these days. But seriously, there was literally nothing special with the transition from the preseason to the new season. No big event, no huge update, and now not even a cinematic. And at least for me, this is the first time in a long time that I really felt like the game just felt boring. Anyways, fast forward a few days after the cinematic, and we got a response from Riot about both the cinematic and the state of League of Legends. So let's talk about it. To summarize the response to the cinematic, it sounds like they were originally actually planning on releasing a normal champion cinematic with Aatrox starring in it. But they said, and I quote, "There are some unprecedented circumstances that had us choose an alternative approach to the season 2023 video." Now, what that issue was specifically was never specified, which is honestly a little bit suspicious. Right, Medler did post this comment on
Ja, okay, also das ist alles nur, der fühlt so, dass der generelle Vibe nicht stimmt. Ich meine, ein paar Sachen bin ich voll bei ihm. Also, dass man sich so ein bisschen wie die Piggybank fühlt. Wir können das auch später weiterschauen. Aber also, oh, ich dachte, wir haben ein Game, ne? Deswegen bin ich schon. Ich weiß auch nicht, also diese League-Takes gibt es ja jedes Jahr, ne? Also jedes Jahr kommt ja diese Welle, ey, League stirbt. Aber bis jetzt hat sich das noch nie bewahrheitet. Das gibt es, glaube ich, bei allen Spielen, ne? Bei WoW, bei CSGO, bei Dota. Also jedes Mal heißt das Spiel stirbt praktisch. Und bis jetzt hat sich das bei diesen großen Namen, glaube ich, noch nie wirklich bewahrheitet. Aber also ja, ein paar Punkte stimme ich voll zu. Da kann man frustriert sein. Und ich finde auch, dass die Community aber diesmal schön gezeigt hat, dass sie frustriert sind. Und man hat zumindest jetzt schon mal eine Antwort bekommen. Und jetzt ist, wenn jetzt Taten folgen, denke ich schon, dass alles im grünen Bereich ist, ehrlicherweise.
on Reddit saying it was planned, scripted, and even partway through development, but again, wasn't able to give the reasoning behind why they didn't go through with it. While I want to believe the reason was due to something completely out of their control, it's hard because the reasoning could also easily be that they wanted to save funding for a different project. Either way, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and assume it was for a fair reason. And if that's the case, all Riot had to do was just communicate this to us from the beginning, and the League community would have been a lot more understanding, which even Riot themselves agreed with. Now, let's talk about their response video. I have mixed feelings with this. First off, I do want to commend them for stepping up and finally taking some responsibility. I mean, this is the first
Der Rechte sah das ganze Video so high. Sorry, das hat nichts mit dem Topic zu tun. Ich wusste nicht, ob der gleich einschläft oder ob der, also, da war so
time in a long
Vogelbildes
time where they
Video.
seem to actually do that. Now, with that being said, I have some concerns with this as well. It could just be me, but I just can't brush off the feeling that they seem to be more sorry the community has finally cracked rather than sorry for neglecting the community all these years. It gives off a bit of I'm sorry for getting caught vibes rather than sorry for actually ignoring you. Like, why are they suddenly addressing all of these unrelated issues now and coincidentally when the community just got pushed over the edge with the lack of the cinematic? Why weren't we getting some of these videos or changes 4 years ago? I honestly theorized that this new 2v2v2v2 game mode they announced wasn't even in discussion until this whole debacle with the cinematic happened. And it's hard not to assume that this is just being used as a deterrent to help cool things down. That, or at the very least, the priority of adding in the game mode got significantly bumped up when they realized how upset the community really was. Another reason I think this was a last-ditch effort was because otherwise, why wouldn't you highlight this in your preseason announcements? Or at least hype it up in some way for the new season? Like, this is a big deal. Riot hasn't released a new game mode for years, and they've clearly been aware that people weren't happy with the lack of effort, so even a small mention at the start of the year would have gotten people extremely hyped. In other words, that's why I don't think they were originally rolling this out, at least this year. Now, don't get me wrong, I am extremely grateful and happy Riot is in fact adding in a new game mode for us to play. I think it sounds sick, and I'll definitely be trying this out when it's released, but that doesn't hide the fact that we as a community needed to get this upset for changes to really happen. We shouldn't have to wait years and have a significant catalyst for us to be heard. Now, in their defense,
Das ist, da muss ich kurz drüber nachdenken. Wie steht ihr dazu? Also, es ist natürlich schon richtig, dass es den Widerstand gebraucht hat, der Community, und dass sie nicht alles mit sich machen lassen und den Aufschrei, damit sich was ändert. Das ist schon richtig, ne? Ich meine, ich weiß halt nicht, ob. Ich weiß halt nicht, ob man denen wirklich einen Vorwurf machen kann jetzt, weil sie haben ja wirklich schnell und positiv reagiert. Ja, aber man kann ihnen natürlich für die Jahre davor, kann man ihnen natürlich einen Vorwurf machen.
even if it was being used as a method of cooling down the community, I understand that they had to start somewhere. So I don't want to criticize their actions too much because, again, I'm extremely grateful they're taking this step forward. I just think it's still important to shine light on the subject. And hey, I could be wrong about all of this, and for all I know, they were planning on implementing this game mode for months already. But even if that is the case, they really should probably look into improving their communication at the start of the year. People honestly would have received this news so well and probably would have cooled things down a lot in itself. At the very least, it would have shown that Riot cares a bit. Speaking of communication, in their video, they also mentioned how they wanted to improve that too, whether it be with videos, blogs, or whatever it may be. Personally, I think both are great ideas. It would be awesome if we had weekly videos or even monthly videos like this talking about upcoming changes, updates, or even just the direction they're planning on heading. Just maybe we actually talk about new upcoming things rather than stuff we've already known about for months now. Anyways, this idea would give an opportunity for the community to give feedback on what they may or may not like about their future plans, or just give suggestions. They also mentioned that they're working on changes to their technology, which is actually pretty great to hear. I don't know much about game design and coding, but I do know enough to understand that League of Legends was built on the ultimate spaghetti code, and sometimes it can just suck to update.
Ich meine, ist sehr, sehr interessant, also so ein Video mal zu sehen. Wie gesagt, mit vielen Punkten stimme ich durchaus überein. Ich finde, bei manchen trifft er nicht so ganz das Mark und ich finde halt, also der generelle Vibe des Videos ist halt schon, ey, ich springe auf diesen Wagen auf, das Spiel stirbt, um um ein paar Views zu farmen. Also wenn du dein Video, der Start war halt wirklich nicht gut, finde ich, in das Video. Ich finde, was er jetzt anspricht, also diese Diskussion, ne, diese Themen, die er aufbringt, da hat er bei fast allen wirklich sagen recht. Ne? Das ist schon was, wo man Riot wirklich kritisieren kann. Aber der Einstieg war sehr schwach.